What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about Survivor Season 47, Episode 2, a fun episode. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and I feel like this was a solid second episode because there was a little bit less Beware Advantage hunting this episode than last episode, which I always think it's good when we can focus on the relationships among the tribes instead of focusing on who has the advantage. So, good times.
Yeah, less running around in the woods this time, more camp life scenes, which I thought was fun. Some idol hunting here at the beginning of the episode where we see Rome telling Teeny about the idol. Last week, we didn't know whether Rome, had the idol in his possession. We just saw last of him was him halfway in the water well, but he didn't get caught in the water well. Here, so awkward. He tells Teeny about the idol, and you tell someone something and then you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have told them that. And then we see Teeny telling Keyshawn about the idol, and they're at Rome's idol box when Rome literally walks up to them. I was like, this is so terrible and awkward, but so funny.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where, like, people always are like, I should tell them about this idol to build trust, and then it ends up going very, very wrong. Just because I feel like a lot of times telling someone just to build trust doesn't work out the way that you hoped it would, especially because you need to trust someone before you tell them about the idol. Otherwise, they'll go gabbing to everyone else. So it was a choice that was made. I thought this standing at Rome's box when Rome goes by was the funniest thing, just because Teeny then had to be like, I was gonna ask you, but then I decided not, and I was like, no one believes you, girl. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they said their apology maybe worked, but at that point, you're in such a hole. like, you literally effed yourself over. There's no way Rome is going to trust you now after that. If he does, okay, you have to. There's only 6 people here. But, Rome should remember this. It's like this person just literally told your biggest secret to other people without first asking you about it. And, you're caught red-handed. It's just so bad.
Yeah, I feel like this was the opposite of a trust building exercise.
Yeah, at least Rome recognizes it. Oh, actually, we might not be as close as I thought. I might not be able to trust Teeny because then Teeny goes and tells other people. And you're like, for Rome, I'm like, oh, if I were Rome, maybe I didn't want to work with Keyshawn, and now Keyshawn knows this. Similar to Sam later in the episode for Rome, you might as well just tell the entire tribe that you have the idol because it just looks sketchy now that you're keeping a secret, but these random people who you may or may not even be working with know that you have the idol. You might as well just tell everyone so they think you trust them.
Yeah, it's a whole mess, and I feel like a lot of the idol finds this season have already been a mess, so I'm kind of here for it just because I feel like more interesting than the idols themselves and how they're going to be used is how idol politics are coming out. Just people knowing about idols, not knowing about idols, all of that is so much more interesting to me than the power to just negate any votes against you.
Yeah, so Rome takes the one tribal council idol, which I thought was interesting. Last week we were like, you should keep on going, especially if people know that you already have the idol. You might as well try for a 3 tribal or the full-fledged idol. But it's very interesting. This episode, we see 2 people take the one tribal episode, which, I mean, for Rome here, I guess it's good. Everyone, or Teeny and Keyshawn, both know that you have an idol. Maybe you could say go for more because people know about it, but then if the tasks are hard, that could be a risk, and then you lose your vote and then you get voted out. With the one tribal idol here, okay, Rome knows for sure he's safe at this first tribal. There's no reason not to play it. Maybe they're going to rehide more idols that you could find another one, but I guess as we saw last season, might be better just to play the idol rather than having more choice so you don't misplay the idol. So at least now Rome won't be blindsided this first tribal that they go to because it seems like people want to vote him out. He'll just have to play the idol. You could flub it by not playing your one tribal council idol or trying to do something spicy and play it for someone else, but Rome should be safe the first tribal they go to.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting just because we saw like in the like tribal dynamics that Rome was maybe not everyone's favorite player. So I always think it's interesting when like the most obvious first boot like ends up not being the first boot from the tribe for whatever reason. And I feel like Rome's idol is going to be interesting in that regard.
Yeah, like one tribal council idol, he might as well play it. Hopefully, he doesn't get too cocky with it. He got this whole edit segment of like him being annoying to other people, him saying he could have gone to the NBA, but then when someone asks when he stopped playing basketball, he said, "Oh, I stopped playing in high school." I'm like, that makes no sense, but okay. He says he wants to be on the On Fire podcast with Jeff. So it's like, okay, that's going to make it in the episode because Jeff wants to promo that. But it really reminded me of people that get like voted out pre-merge of shows or early in shows like this. Then they're like, oh, I want to be on The Amazing Race. I want to be on The Challenge. Like, you haven't even made your mark on this show yet. How can you be saying you're going to get cast on these other shows?
It's like saying you can make it into the NBA when you haven't even done anything in college basketball. It's just, it's the same sort of thing where I feel like people maybe you don't really understand what your impact is going to be until it's over. And I feel like sometimes people do that as like kind of a wish fulfillment thing. Like, I'm going to be around long enough that, like, you know, they'll want me on the On Fire podcast. They'll want me on Big Brother. They'll want me on X, Y, and Z. Manifestation, yeah. Let's call it.
Seems like Rome is, I guess, like, just talking up his butt here, getting the annoying segment, never good on Survivor. We also see Rome trying to make fire, and then Keyshawn also knows how to make fire, but Rome is like flubbing the fire. Keyshawn in confessional says, oh, I want to be low key. I don't really want people's eyes on me, which is good. I think that's great strategy for Keyshawn, lay low. And then he makes the fire and Rome doesn't make the fire. I feel like we see a lot of this theme throughout this episode where it's like someone is being overly cocky or overconfident about something in like relationships or like making the fire here. Then someone more subtle, more under the radar actually knows what they're doing and what they're talking about and sort of one-ups the cocky people.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see play out.
So going to yellow team, everyone is making Andy feel included. We see Sam and Andy bonding. Andy probably trusts Sam the best now over Rachel. So maybe less good for Rachel. Last week we thought, okay, if it's like a 2-2 Sam and Sierra versus Rachel and Annika, Andy might go with Rachel and Annika. Andy and Sam, good for Sam building this relationship. Smart to bring in the bottom person. I think it will be interesting to see if Andy gets told about Sam having the idol, if Andy is threatened by the Sam Sierra relationship, and then he maybe flips to Rachel Annika.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because we didn't see as much of Sam last episode, and so to see him and Andy have this bond felt kind of sudden to me as a viewer, but I also didn't rewatch episode 1 before watching episode 2. So maybe that was just one of those things that your mind forgets in the week gap between episodes. But yeah, I thought definitely they're like cheering for Andy opening the coconut. I was just thinking about his whole thing about he was like, everyone cheers when John opens a coconut, but no one cheers for Andy. It feels like they were being very deliberate about being like, go Andy. And I'm like, oh, it feels like that would be really difficult to have to like manage someone else's ego the whole time that you're on the island. But I guess they decided that it was worthwhile for them.
I agree. Like, it's smart for everyone else to placate Andy and everything he does. Oh my God, you're the best person ever. You did so great. You're doing so well on all these things. But like, yeah, it's got to be hard. And I'd feel like for us as a viewer, since we know the situation, it comes off a little bit fake from Andy's point of view, seemingly doesn't really come off fake, but like, oh, I'm being included now. I wasn't voted out last time. These people actually genuinely like me. I sort of feel bad for Andy, like if he's watching this second episode everyone's basically making fun of him. They're like, oh, this is a toxic relationship. We're just fake cheering for Andy. Everyone knows about the idol but Andy, when Andy was the person that found the original clue. And like Sam is basically lying straight to his face. So I wonder now, like post show, I feel sort of bad for Andy. Like, if you already have like social anxiety and your friendships, relationships, having all these people lie and sort of talk crap about you and make fun of you behind your back has got to be hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also depends on how things go like later on down the line. Because it could just be we see like relationships evolve in Survivor all the time. So maybe these people are like lying and faking nice now, but later on down the line, they like genuinely have a relationship with Andy or something to that effect. And I think part of it is like not to be like it's Andy's own fault, but if you don't accept people like not being as nice to you as you want immediately, then like it's a game. They have to have you on their side. Like if you can't handle people maybe talking behind your back, then like don't go on Survivor. I think it's one of those things where he acknowledged that this is going to be the ultimate test of like his social anxiety. And, you know, I feel like that's a choice that you make. Like, don't go on Survivor if you're not willing to starve. Don't go on Survivor if you're not willing to have people lie to you. Like, it just is what it is.
Guess we'll see if he gets voted out, his thoughts on being talked about behind his back, and if that's affected his real life, which like some people come out of the show and they're like, yeah, I find it hard to trust like my friends and family members now after being lied to all this time. So I think that would be interesting from his point of view. Annika speaking the truth. Next episode in the preview, we see her calling out Sam and Sierra as in a relationship, which, like, watching this episode, seeing Sam always want to include Sierra, I was like, okay, so this is a tight duo. We thought last week it would be Sam and Sierra versus Rachel Annika. And then to see them potentially have a showmance when Sam is engaged, I feel like that's just very uncomfortable for me. So, like, hopefully there's not anything going on there.
Yeah, hopefully not. But I don't know. I think it's also like a lot of is in the hands of the editors where things can be totally platonic that are edited to be romantic. And I feel like on Survivor, they always like a good showmance arc because they think it's interesting. So maybe like they didn't feel anything showmancy towards each other, but it's still edited as like, oh, what if there was a showmance? So
yeah, editors crossing some boundaries if there's not really a showmance there and someone is like in a relationship kind of thing. That's some dirty work by the editors. But we see Andy find the Beware advantage. Sam goes off to the bathroom, and then Andy runs away from his babysitter and finds the advantage. But then Andy decides to put it away. It is interesting because preseason, Andy said that his hot take is that like advantages, the hidden immunity idol, it's not something that like, I guess basically it's like it's not necessarily like a game winning move. It's not helping you win the game. It might hurt your game more than it helps you win the game kind of thing. So I think that helps to describe why he put the Beware advantage back. But also in this case where Andy probably knows he's on the bottom, you maybe want the hidden immunity idol, even if it means risking your vote.
yeah, because it's one of those things where if it's going to be a 4-1 vote against you anyway, might as well make it a 4-0, but you at least like had a chance, you know? So I don't know. I feel like as soon as he decided to put the advantage back, I was like, oh, someone else is going to find it. Like there's no guarantee that like you're going to leave it and then like it'll be there whenever you're ready to come back. So.
Exactly, because like that tree was a funky looking tree. There's probably going to be something hidden there. And then we see Sam and Annika find the advantage. And then we see Andy come back later looking for it and he can't find it anymore. So I would want to know, like, what's the timing in between it? Like, was it an hour he waited and he thought about it and decided to come back? Was it 30 minutes and they had found it already? Like, what kind of bad luck does Andy have that he finds it, puts it back, and then it's gone next time?
Or was it like days, you know? Well, I guess it couldn't be days plural, but it could be a significant amount of time. So
Yeah, so Sam and Annika find it. Sam's like, oh, dang, sort of wish we didn't find it together. Sam tells Sierra about the advantage, and then he tells Rachel about it. I think this is very smart that he tells everyone who's in this potential foursome alliance, because basically everyone knows about it besides Andy. Sam's reasoning, oh, Annika's going to tell Rachel, so if I don't tell her, then it's going to look bad on me. 100%. I think Sam did it right here. Just tell everyone who's in your alliance foursome, because otherwise someone's going to feel left out and then they might want to vote you out.
Yeah, and I feel like also telling people as soon as you like know about it, instead of he said something like, "Oh, I can't wait for someone else to tell her to then tell her myself because that makes me look suspicious of like, oh, you already know this." So I think that's really good too because I feel like some people wait too long and then are like, "Oh, I was going to tell you earlier, but," and it's like no one believed that you were going to tell them earlier.
Yeah, just
No
like
one believes
Teeny,
that.
just like Teeny saying, "Oh, I wanted to ask you about bringing in Kishan, but I didn't." Like, no, no one believes that. I think it was also really good for Sam. Like, each of the women got a special like hangout with him. So, like, Annika found the advantage with him. Rachel untied the knots with him. Sierra opened the box with him. So it's like everyone feels special. So it's like, oh, okay, for Rachel's point of view, Annika told her first, but then Sam told her, but then they got to untie the knots together. Maybe she feels fine, more close, rather than if he didn't tell Rachel at all, Rachel just heard it from Annika, she might be feeling a kind of way. But each of the women got to do something with him, with the idol, so they probably feel fine with him.
Yeah, I feel like it was definitely good relationship management because everyone got to feel a part of it. No one got to feel like, oh, you're just doing this and I'm expected to come along for the ride.
Yeah, or like being told after the fact, like, oh, hey, like yesterday I found the idol. Here it is. I'm just showing it to you. They all got to be a part of literally finding an idol on Survivor. So they might be like, ah, maybe I can trust Sam now. Similar to like Andy telling Sam, hey, someone found my Beware advantage, not knowing that Sam was the one who actually had it, but them playing it off like, oh, one of the women found it. We need to vote out one of the girls now, which is smart from Sam's point of view. But like, now Sam thinks, hey, I can trust Andy because Andy told me he found the Beware advantage.
Yeah, the only bad thing about this, I think, is how many people now know about the idol. Because we've talked all the time about how, like, the more public knowledge idols are, the trickier they can be. But then also, sometimes a lot of people knowing about the idol is a good thing because you don't get votes thrown your way just because people don't want to have to worry about splitting votes and they know you have your idol. And so it's one of those things where sometimes having an idol can keep you safe for way more than one tribal because people don't want to have to deal with and plan around the idol.
Exactly. But Sam does take the one tribal council idol as well. So he's got to play it next time, similar to Rome. It would be interesting when Yellow goes to tribal again. Like, okay, is Andy the easy vote? We see Sam saying, hey, maybe I want to keep Andy around. Sierra is maybe not so on board with that, but would go if Sam wants to do it, kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see because I feel like Rachel, Annika are smart. They wouldn't necessarily want to go down to a foursome where it is Sam, Sierra, Rachel, Annika. They might try to pull Andy in as well, where Sam having this idol, though it saves himself, I could see Sierra being the collateral damage from this. Okay, we can't vote out Sam, let's vote her out. And you keep Sam around because he's strong and tall and would help with challenges. You vote her out.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I always feel bad for the collateral damage in like situations like these because it's not something that they did wrong. It's something that someone else did right.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Sierra could prevent that. Maybe she's like, oh, let's do a women's alliance, and you try to get all of the women together, and then you try to still vote out Andy or something because Sam has the idol, trying to downplay Sam and Sierra's relationship. But doesn't seem like that's the case right now with the preview for next week. Annika calling them out as a showmance. So if Sierra is collateral, she really needs to play down the showmance and play up like, oh, us women are working together, that kind of thing, like we see like Sue and Gabe and Caroline do later this episode. But Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who gets Andy in this 2v2, if it does become a 2v2 when they go to tribal. And I do wonder, because Rachel and Annika know that Sam has the idol, they could throw Sam under the bus and be like, Andy, Sam has been lying to you. Even though you think you're buddy friends, he's the real one with the idol, like 100% for sure. Like, you need to vote him out.
Mm-hmm. I still think it would be fun if Andy got voted out and then they had a 2v2 deadlock, the tribal after that. But I feel like that's a lot less likely to happen.
They can go to rocks, like this episode, threatening to go to rocks.
I love the people willing to go to rocks this early in the game. Like, what a baller.
I'm like, this isn't Survivor South Africa. So we get to the immunity challenge. People are shocked about John. We just have to RIP that again, that John got voted out last week. So the immunity challenge, you have to maneuver these heavy rice bags through water and obstacles, and then you go through this table maze. Or like this maze where you can't see the other side in order to continue going. And then it's 3 people on a snake table maze. I was really nervous at the sandbag portion where people with the knives were cutting the sandbags. I'm like, you are totally going to cut your hand off right here or stab yourself. Like, it was scary watching.
Yeah. Whenever they like have knives like that, I am always terrified that someone is going to get injured. But
yeah, and Jeff's like, move your hand. I'm like, Andy is slashing right next to his hand.
Yeah, I also just think if your challenge requires people to like do things a very specific way, not to get hurt, you're pretty much guaranteeing that someone is going to get hurt because they're trying to go as fast as possible. They're not trying to like be safe. So
yeah, no one got injured with the knife slashing, though. No lost fingers or blood or anything, so that's good. Rome, he says, Mamba mentality, and then we hear Genevieve saying, I don't know what that means, but that sounds great. And that was all we got from Genevieve this episode.
Poor Genevieve.
So the fun part of this challenge, I thought, was Rachel trying to take rice home in her pants pockets. I thought this was good. I thought they should have let her keep it. It was smart of her trying to take it. The other tribes trying to find their ball for the table maze, they dumped their rice onto the ground. So that's their own fault of losing all their rice. But Andy just cut the bag on the table and found the ball in it. So then people could take the rice. I thought it was funny. Like, the camera people were just like, oh, pointing, okay, zoom in on this, zoom in there, like something's happening. And then they're probably like laughing off in the corner while they see this happening.
Yeah, I wonder why they didn't let her take the rice. Like, is it just like, oh, this isn't food grade rice? Is it just like, oh, it wouldn't be fair? I also love that Jeff was like, I saw you. And it's like, Jeffrey, we all know that you didn't see this happening. We know that someone else had to tell you that this happened. Like, come on.
Yeah, production told you. Like, you didn't see it with your own eyeballs. I feel like if Jeff doesn't see it, it should be allowed. Like, if the camera people see it, okay, that's fine because there's hundreds of cameras there watching each and every move to get the good shots. If Jeff doesn't see it and it's not in the rules, it's fine. Like, if it were in the rules, oh, you're not allowed to take props from the challenge, which maybe that's in the rules. If they define it very like liberally, like, oh, a prop from the challenge, you could take rice as a prop in the challenge. But like, I think this is ingenious. I think Rachel should have been able to take the rice. It's like the new Angelina rice negotiations. You got to steal the rice from this.
Yeah, I would like some clarity on the rules as always.
So blue team loses the immunity challenge. TK says he hates losing. He's not a loser. He doesn't hang out with losers. And then he continues to harp on it for a little bit. And, you know, I feel like you can hate losing. A lot of these people, probably type A people, no one likes to lose. They don't hang out with people that lose. But I feel like you got to get over it really quick. Like, you can be sad at the end of the challenge. You can say whatever you want. Don't bring it back to camp. Go back to camp. It's like, there's nothing you can do. Your team already lost. You can't go back and change things in the challenge. You can only improve for the next challenge so that maybe you win the challenge. But like harping on it back at camp and like sulking over it, not good. You got to leave it at the challenge and then get over it.
Yeah, I feel like people who are too competitive in Survivor can often like end up not doing well just because they focus way too much on the challenges when really the challenge is not the bulk of the game. Like, yeah, it's nice if you don't have to go to tribal council, but if you like have good social skills, have like other things that are going well for you, then it shouldn't matter as much if you lose like one challenge. And so I feel like having a poor attitude about losing challenges is almost worse than losing the challenge itself.
Yeah, then it just is annoying because it's like, okay, there's nothing we can do. We can't go back in time. We can't break the hourglass here and redo this challenge. We just have to deal with the consequences of not having good teamwork in the challenge or not having good communication. But like, how can we fix it for the next team challenge kind of thing? But also, I'd say, yeah, like losing is a part of Survivor. You almost want to lose some of these immunity challenges pre-merge or pre-swap so you can test your relationships. You can see who's really working with you. You can see who you can trust. And like we've seen in the new era thus far, it's like these teams that don't lose immunity challenges and they go into the merge with 5 people or even their full team, 6 people kind of thing. It's like they implode going into the merge and they fracture because the smaller teams that are down to like 3 or 4 people are a lot stronger and more cohesive because they've continuously voted people off and created that bond compared to, oh, we're going in with 5 people. We're annoyed with like 2 of them. Let's vote each other out. And then you like whittle down your own numbers.
Yeah, I feel like we talk about this every season because every season it happens where it's like, oh, you were willing to just stick with your original tribe. You could basically just pagong them, but people are never willing to stick with their original tribe, I feel like, from the start because either you vote people out so that you don't have the majority, or by the time you do get to voting people out, there are people who annoy you too much to just pagong someone else.
Yeah, so here we see a blue foursome forming with TK and Kyle as a tight 2, and then they are bringing in Gabe and Tiana. I think it was funny here, TK telling Gabe that he needs to connect and socialize more, Gabe being underestimated, and then Gabe making the alliance with his, quote, wounded birds in Sue and Caroline, who then he underestimates too. It's like a pattern of people underestimating each other when I feel like you probably shouldn't be underestimating them.
A lot of these people just aren't paranoid enough. They're like, oh, I'll tell anyone about my idol. Oh, I'll underestimate this person. Oh, like I'm not just like seeing things here, right? Like they need to be like a little more paranoid, except for, Andy's paranoid enough. Everyone else needs a little bit more. Maybe we should like evenly split Andy's paranoia among every other contestant.
Yeah, Andy took all of the paranoia and like not cockiness, and then everyone's got the cockiness that they're not slightly nervous here. But like Gabe with the wounded birds talk, I feel like, okay, it makes sense as we see a foursome forming on blue. Sue and Caroline are maybe on the outs with the other 4 being formed, but I feel like Sue and Caroline aren't like bad or dumb at the game. We see Caroline not really trusting Gabe. Gabe then shows Caroline the idol. But I feel like Sue is probably the one that got Caroline into this threesome of Sue, Caroline, Gabe, because it's like Caroline didn't really want to work with Gabe. She's probably only like feeling this close because Sue is like calming her nerves there. I feel like Sue is the glue out of this 3-person alliance, whereas Gabe is seeing this as like, oh, this is my ticket to win. I'm going to sit with these 2 women that people don't respect. So I'm going to win out of them. But I feel like Sue is the one keeping this group together right now.
Yeah, and I feel like it's probably not going to stay together for very long. But we'll have to see how that one goes. They're such like an odd trio to me that I'm like,
I wonder if Gabe's comment about wanting to go to the end with Sue and Caroline is foreshadowing. I think Gabe was saying that he wants to play like Russell Hantz and like his idol is Russell Hantz. So it's like, okay, him picking Caroline and Sue sort of makes sense. And like, okay, Russell, you pick like 2 women that maybe people don't respect. Here, you're picking 2 women that are maybe on the outs at this first tribal council. And like, It'll be interesting though, because as we've seen, like Russell loses to women at the end of his seasons. And here it's like that theme of like TK being overconfident. Gabe here is being overconfident. Sue later in the episode, she's mad at TK for talking while she's trying to sleep. And then she pops off in confessional, like, I'm actually really smart. I've got a better job than all these people. But she's quiet on the island. She's not needing to brag about her, flight school to everyone else on the island. Like, let yourself be underestimated. Keyshawn doing well at that too. Let yourself be underestimated. You don't need to brag about things like Gabe and TK are.
Yeah. Just like be more chill. Be more paranoid and be more chill. Those are my two Survivor lessons from this episode.
Yeah, I wonder too if Sue and Tiana talked about flying, since, one's a pilot and one's a flight attendant.
Who knows? Not me.
So we also see the negative TK edit here where like he's talking and Sue and Tiana want to sleep. TK was saying bro all of the time, which is sort of funny. Like every other word was bro.
Bro. Yeah, I feel like when you get nervous, those filler words can definitely slip in a lot quicker. So I imagine that's what happens.
Yeah, bro. So Tiana, sort of the swing vote here. They're seeing, oh, she's rolling her eyes at him at the challenge because TK was going off about, oh, I hate losers, and Tiana's talking about being losing here kind of thing. I feel like there's no way you're going to rocks here. Like someone's going to flip, and your first tribal council with 6 people, it's such a huge chance of you picking the rock to go home if you're going to rocks. Like, you just pick someone to vote out. You've known each other for 5 or 6 days now at the second tribal council. No way you're going to rocks here.
Yeah, no way.
So, like, I feel like for Tiana, if Gabe is telling her, okay, I don't really want to work with TK, maybe I want to vote TK out, like Tiana will see, okay, it's like a 3 versus 2. I can go and make it a 4, or I can make it a 3-3. I'd rather go and make it a 4. I also think like for Sue and Caroline, throwing it as like a girls thing, like we're saying, oh, if Sierra wants to survive, maybe she can throw out a girls thing and like play up like, oh, Sue, Caroline, Tiana, it's us 3. Gabe is just here with us, hiding the fact that it was actually Gabe, Caroline, and Sue. I think they did a really good job at this.
Yeah, I feel like I had to like rewatch that like part of the episode because I got confused. To be fair, I was kind of sleep deprived. But I got confused about like whose loyalties were where, so they did a really good job of like playing it cool enough that I was confused at least. So
yeah, and like it makes sense for Gabe not to play the idol on Sue, because if you played an idol on her the first tribal council, that would look so sketch. Like if it was a public relationship like Sam and Sierra, maybe Sam plays the idol for Sierra because everyone already pegs you as a duo, but like people don't see Gabe and Sue as a tight duo, so don't play the idol for her. It would make the relationship too obvious. Like, okay, maybe he could have saved it because he had a 3 tribal idol, but like, you get rid of the target on your back, you just play it now, people won't be like antsy around you anymore, you get rid of it, so it's like sort of fine, but like theoretically he could have saved it. But also, maybe if Gabe didn't think they convinced Tiana to flip and it was going to go to rocks, like Gabe would be safe because it would only be 3 people drawing rocks. And in that case, you flip your vote and you don't draw rocks.
Exactly. Man, I kind of wish we lived in the alternate timeline where they went to rocks, but also it's better that they didn't.
Yeah, I do feel like though for Tiana, it probably is worse for her that she went with the Gabe Sue group, because in the men group with TK and Kyle, she's probably 3rd there because they didn't really like Gabe and they were just bringing him in for like strength and numbers. But like here on the Gabe, Caroline, Sue group, like he's number 4 or she's number 4 there. Like she's at the bottom of this group potentially.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I guess there's still time for that group to like mix up a little bit. So maybe that's what she's hoping for then. But I don't know. Just because, like you said, being 4 of 4 is probably not the best, but
Yeah, like if Blue went to tribal again, unless the women are like really mad at Gabe, but like I really don't see Sue flipping on Gabe this early. I'd say, okay, you flip on Gabe, maybe come merge or late merge to vote him out, but like not at your second tribal council you're going to, you don't vote him out. People don't really seem to have any issues with Kyle, just left him out of the vote because Kyle and TK are close, but like you might vote Tiana out and keep Kyle around for like the quote tribe strength, because you still have to be able to beat the other tribes. You don't need to be like so strong, but you just have to not get last place. And so like, okay, voting John out, but here you're voting TK out. You have to at least still be level with the other teams.
Rip John. Yeah, I feel like that's the thing where you're not playing for first place, you're playing for not last. So I think it'll be interesting to see whether or not they're still strong enough for that TK, because I feel like they are generally like one of the stronger teams overall, but then they also still lost this time. So I don't know.
Yeah. Like red won't have to sit anyone out, but now blue, like you can't sit Sue out. So it's like if you think Sue is the weakest person on this team, like it'll be interesting to see, because then okay, now 2 men have been voted out. The other teams might be like, okay, like I'm actually annoyed with Rome, but like we wanted to keep him around because he's a strong guy. But if you see the other people voting out their strong guys, you're like, okay, maybe we don't actually need him because we can still be strong without him, because we just have to be stronger than like a team without TK on it now. Like you don't have to be so strong. You just have to be strong. Yeah, like we're saying, you don't have to be, you just got to not be last. So you just have to beat the TK-less team now.
Once one strong person is voted out, it makes it easier to vote out the other strong people.
Exactly. It's not like he was a Jonathan and he's winning like your challenges for you single-handedly, but like one strong dude maybe you can let go because the other teams are also losing their strong people.
Exactly.
So I'm excited to see how this goes. There's a lot of interesting things happening, a lot of interpersonal dynamics. I'm like, oh, we sort of want like maybe a double elimination, because I want to see, okay, is it Tiana or Kyle, or do they flip on Gabe soon? Or it's like, okay, does Andy get voted out, or does Andy get pulled into something? Maybe we need to see Red go to tribal. So then, but then I feel like on Red, it's probably Genevieve going home.
I don't know. I feel like if Genevieve were going home on Red, we would have seen like a little bit more of her, so that when she goes home, we're not like, who is this? So I feel like Genevieve might like coast to the merge, and then if there's ever an episode where we suddenly see more of Genevieve, I feel like that's when we're gonna know.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, Genevieve's gonna go because of some like weird idol or weird twist, so that's why she's under edited. So then you're not sad that the twist or idol weird thing happened that way and your favorite got voted out.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm excited though. It's a very fun season thus far, very fun episode. A lot of things can go right for people, a lot of things can go wrong for people. So I'm excited to see what happens next week.
I'm excited to see what happens, and I hope that there's less idol content now, just because they've all been found. Please, let me have peace.
They're gonna send them on a journey next week, a scavenger hunt journey in the woods.
Oh, Lord Almighty, I hope not. But I really enjoyed like the first couple episodes of the season where they're like setting the stage, and then you get to see the rest of it play out for the rest of the season. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think Rome telling Teeny, bad idea, good idea? Do you think Sam telling everyone was a bad idea or a good idea? And do you think them voting TK out was bad or good for their team? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching. And